It's 5 p.m. across India, live from New Delhi. You're watching DD India Global. We'll get you top stories from India and the region. I'm Tanvi Taneja. And for news from the rest of the world, I am joined by my colleague in London, Holi Barrett. Hello, Holi.
Hello, Tanvi. It's 11:30 a.m. here in London, 12:30 p.m. across Central Europe. And coming up in the next half an hour, we've got the latest on the Moscow terror attack. The UK accuses China of hacking, and Holi is celebrated all over the world. First, the headlines.
Russia mourns victims of Moscow concert hall terror attack. 4 suspects charged and sent to pre-trial custody. France on high alert following the Moscow shootings. UN Security Council set to vote on a resolution demanding a humanitarian ceasefire in Gaza as UN Chief Antonio Guterres visits Jordan on the Ramadan Solidarity Tour. And the vibrant festival of colour, Holi, being celebrated with a splash of colour and warm exchange of greetings across India and the world. First news from Asia. India slammed Pakistan once again over its absurd remarks on Jammu and Kashmir. Speaking at the 148th session of the Inter-Parliamentary Union Assembly in Geneva, Deputy Chairman of Rajya Sabha, Harivansh, who was representing India, emphasized India's status as the largest democracy in the world, a model that many countries aspire to emulate. He critiqued Pakistan's track record on democracy. Addressing Pakistan's claims on Jammu and Kashmir directly, Harivansh reaffirmed that the Union territories of Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh are integral parts of India. He highlighted the futility of rhetoric and propaganda in changing this undeniable fact.
I take the floor to reject the preposterous comments made by Pakistan against my country. Lectures by a country which has an abysmal track record of democracy is laughable, to say the least. It would have been better if Pakistan did not undermine the importance of a platform like IPU by such absurd allegations and false narratives. As regards the Union territories of Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh, they have been and will always remain an integral and inalienable part of India. No amount of rhetoric and propaganda from anyone can override this fact. Instead, Pakistan would be well advised to stop its terror factories that continue to launch countless cross-border terrorist attacks in Jammu and Kashmir while farcically claiming to champion the cause of human rights. IPU members are well aware that Pakistan has an established history of harboring, aiding, and actively supporting terrorists.
The UN Security Council is set to vote on a resolution on Monday demanding a humanitarian ceasefire in Gaza during the holy month of Ramadan. The resolution put forward by the 10 elected council members is backed by Russia and China, who vetoed a US-sponsored resolution on Friday that supported an immediate and sustained ceasefire in the Israel-Hamas conflict. The 22-nation Arab group at the UN issued a statement on Friday appealing to all 15 council members to act with unity and urgency and vote for the resolution to halt the bloodshed, preserve human lives and avert further human suffering and destruction. Since the conflict broke out on October the 7th, the UN Security Council has adopted 2 resolutions on the worsening humanitarian situation in Gaza, but none has called for a ceasefire. Now, as part of an annual Ramadan Solidarity Tour, United Nations Secretary-General Antonio Guterres reached Jordan on Monday. The UN chief said there is a growing consensus in the international community for a ceasefire in the Israel-Hamas conflict. He also called for continued funding for the United Nations Refugee Agency, asserting that it is a ray of light for millions of people.
I see a growing consensus emerging international community to tell the Israelis that the ceasefire is needed. And I also see a growing consensus. I heard it in the US, I heard it from the European Union, not to mention, of course, the Muslim world, a growing consensus to tell clearly to the Israelis that any ground invasion of Rafah could mean a catastrophic humanitarian disaster.
Now, in the ongoing conflict between Israel and Hamas, the Israeli Defense Forces apprehended approximately 500 Hamas terrorists and seized weapons at Al-Shifa Hospital in the last 24 hours. And additionally, over 20 suspected Hamas terrorists were neutralized. The Israeli Defense Forces also facilitated the exit of hundreds of Gazans from the area and questioned dozens of suspects. Israel's Air Force conducted strikes on roughly 50 targets associated with terrorism, including Al-Amal in western Khan Yunis, aiming to dismantle terrorists' infrastructure in the area.
Today is day 6 of the IDF's operation against Hamas and Islamic Jihad in Shifa Hospital. 170 terrorists were neutralized in or around the Shifa Hospital compound while firing at our forces. The IDF apprehended hundreds of terror suspects with confirmed ties to Hamas or Islamic Jihad, making this one of the most successful operations since the start of the war.
On to the latest now on the Moscow attack. Russia has charged 4 men it says were behind the Moscow concert hall attack. And France's President Emmanuel Macron warns all to be on alert ahead of the Paris Olympics. My colleague Holi Barrett is in London. He gives us more on this and other stories making headlines around the world. Holi, it's been the deadliest attack Russia has seen in 2 decades.
That's right, Tanvi, and a Russian court has now charged 4 men with acts of terrorism in connection with the concert hall attack. A court statement says 2 of the 4 admitted to their guilt and they are to be held in pre-trial detention until May the 22nd. As you were saying, the French President Emmanuel Macron has said that Russia was the victim of an Islamist attack and that the group behind the Moscow shootings had also attempted to commit several acts in France recently. The French government on Sunday raised the country's terror alert warning to its highest level after the Friday shootings in Moscow. Britain is set to give details of a cybersecurity threat and hacking of the country's electoral commission, which is allegedly linked to China. The Deputy Prime Minister, Oliver Dowden, is due to address the country's parliament here in London later. The UK will claim that Chinese spies have been targeting British officials in sensitive positions in politics, defence and business. The attack on the Electoral Commission took place in August 2021, but was disclosed last year. DD India's Stuart Smith joins us live now from London for more on this story. Stuart, what exactly do we expect Britain to claim later?
Well, while we already know about these cyber attacks against the Electoral Commission, this would be the first time, when announced in Parliament later, that they have actually been attributed to a nation state, China specifically. And what was breached, we know at the time, according to the government, was the details of 40 million voters. That's a huge number of people for the UK, and also provided quality information on age, nationality, addresses and national insurance number, a tax number, which allows for the unique identification of individuals. Now, while that at the time came out a couple of years ago, it's this attribution to China that is expected in the afternoon. There's also the question of to what extent China has been targeting individuals in those sectors especially, but also parliamentarians, lawmakers in the UK, who the government has said have already, some of them been previously targeted deliberately by China for their activism, some of them sanctioned as well already by China for producing a report on what these British lawmakers called gross human rights violations in China.
Well, Stuart, what could this do to relations between Beijing and London?
Well, if we talk about the trajectory that's already in place, it was 2018 that the former Prime Minister David Cameron suggested the UK and China were entering a golden era. But since then, there have been a number of measures taken by both China and the UK which have set the two on a declining relationship, such as in 2018, the UK attributed a malicious cyber campaign to China. In 2020, on national security grounds, a number of Chinese telecommunications equipment made by the Chinese manufacturer Huawei started to be removed from the UK's 5G network. And then in 2022, Rishi Sunak, the current Prime Minister, said the golden era between the UK and China is over. As to what this announcement expected in the afternoon is likely to do, it could depend on what steps the Deputy Prime Minister specifically announces. Certainly, just attributing these attacks to China is already going to spark extra tensions between China and the UK. It's already responded, denying that it was behind these, saying that these are smears without factual basis. But if on top of that sanctions come as well, then perhaps we can expect an even more resolute response from China, and potentially, as we've seen before, China then reacting itself with sanctions against British officials.
Stuart Smith, thank you. Crowds of supporters have taken to the streets in Senegal as they celebrated presidential candidate Bassirou Diomaye Faye's probable win. Opposition parties declared Faye an early winner following a peaceful day of voting on Sunday to elect Senegal's fifth president. It comes after 3 years of political turmoil that sparked violent anti-government protests. Simon Harris has been confirmed as the new leader of Ireland's Fine Gael political party, and he's now poised to become the country's next Prime Minister. The party confirmed Harris's leadership following the resignation of party leader and PM Leo Varadkar on Wednesday. 37-year-old Harris, known for helping steer the country's initial response to COVID-19, will be Ireland's youngest ever Prime Minister when the Parliament next convenes on April the 9th. Haitian police have launched a retaliatory operation as the Caribbean country remains in the grip of violent protests since rival gangs unleashed a wave of attacks this month. The conflict has killed and displaced thousands already. Peace justice officials have recovered a dozen charred bodies who were allegedly members of one gang and buried them in a mass grave in Port-au-Prince. The vibrant festival of Holi is being celebrated across the world. In East Africa, the Indian community living in Uganda gathered to celebrate the festival of colour and warmth. DD India's Leon Senyange reports from Kampala.
A celebration of colour done with glamour. The Indian community in Uganda gathered for the Holi festival, a day that signifies the triumph of good over evil and arrival of spring in India.
It brings quite a bit of positivity in you. You know, any negativity which is within you, you just set it off. You know that, okay, now I'm going to start it's going to be a new start for me.
The Holi festival has been celebrated for thousands of years. For Hirani Rajesh, bringing his young family is an opportunity to teach them about the Holi culture.
Children should be know this culture because it is our religions.
A culture with everything to be happy about. The celebration is not only about color. The people have gathered to sing and dance as well. The traditional delicacies add to the camaraderie.
Thank you.
Alpa Savjani says she has never missed a Holi festival in her adult life. It is a significant part of her life.
So it is 1 year, two festivals which is come more important to us. One is Holi, one is Diwali. Diwali has a fireworks, Holi has a colors. So we are enjoy as a colorful life of the full year. That's what we pray for other people also.
Different Indian communities in Uganda will hold the celebrations until the first weekend of April. The enjoyment here is already fulfilling.
We are really enjoying. We are enjoying a lot. It's been really fun because we've just come, but ever since we've started, it's really fun.
The organizers plan a bonfire to light up the festival. For the celebrants, this single day truly remains a reignition of the belief of new beginnings. Leon Senyange in Kampala, Uganda, reporting for DD India.
Well, just as the Indian festival of Holi signifies the change of the seasons, Polish families have cheered as they burnt the effigy of Marzanna, the ancient Slavic goddess of winter, marking the seasonal transition to spring at an open-air archaeological museum in the Polish city of Sopot.
Bye-bye winter, welcome spring, as the straw figure of the deity was set alight in Polish city of Sopot. This is how the tradition goes in Poland, to say goodbye to winter and welcome the spring season. The rituals involve burning the effigy to symbolically scare away the period of hunger and high death tolls associated with the harsh winters of the early Middle Ages.
It is one of the oldest folk traditions in Poland, associated with the goddess Marzanna. Marzanna, in ancient Slavic beliefs, was the goddess of death, of winter, cold, but also revival. As passing of the winter is passing of the grim period of hunger, of highest death toll, and by burning of the straw doll, we signify scaring away or attempt to scare away that period and begin anew.
Marzanna is the goddess of death in winter, but also of rebirth in the Slavic pantheon. It's a symbol of spring.
We're making a little Marzannas. It's a symbol of spring. So the white ones are the winter, and we're supposed to burn them. And the colorful ones are the spring.
The tradition has some similarity with India's Holika Dahan tradition, which involves the lighting of a fire after sunset. The fire signifies the burning of negativity and the triumph of good. While in Poland, people burn effigy of deity Marzanna to celebrate the end of harsh winters and welcome pleasant spring. Bureau Report, DD India.
And let's spring now back from London to Delhi. Tanvi.
Thank you very much, Oli. You're watching DD India Global, still to come on the show. The Philippines summons China's envoy to protest against aggressive actions in the South China Sea, dares Beijing to seek arbitration. And comedian Kevin Hart takes home his Mark Twain Prize for American humor.
India that invents. India that innovates. India that excites. India that invites. Land of possibility. Teeming with opportunities. Watch India Ideas each Thursday, 8 p.m. only on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Global. I am Tanvi Taneja. Back to Asia. The rift between the Philippines and China over claims over the South China Sea has deepened further. The Philippines has summoned China's envoy on Monday to protest against the aggressive actions in the South China Sea. The Foreign Ministry of the Philippines accused China's Coast Guard of using water cannon against a civilian boat supplying troops at the Second Thomas Shoal on Saturday. However, Chinese Foreign Ministry said that the Philippines has to remove the grounded warship in the South China Sea. Earlier on Monday, Manila's defense minister dared Beijing to bolster its vast sovereignty claims by taking them to International Arbitration Court. China claims almost the entire South China Sea as its own, including the Second Thomas Shoal, which is within the Philippines' exclusive economic zone. In 1999, The Philippines intentionally grounded an old warship at the shoal as a means of bolstering its territorial claims. South Korean medical professors began submitting their resignations en masse to support a trainee doctor strike over a government plan to boost medical school admissions on Monday. The president of the Medical Professors Association of Korea, Kim Chong-soo, said that increasing medical school admissions will ruin medical school education, collapsing the country's healthcare system. The trainee doctors have been on strike since February the 20th. And DD India's Patrick Falk has more on the doctors' strike from Hong Kong.
Yeah, I mean, you could definitely say that the position of the doctors certainly is complex, because the government essentially wants to ease their burden by doing what it says it wants to do. And as we know, there is huge public support for increasing quotas for medical trainees. But doctors in South Korea say that this is going to, as we heard a moment ago, collapse South Korea's medical system. The basis for this argument is that they say, you know, the shortages that South Korea is experiencing are mainly in rural areas, and increasing admissions simply means that a lot of newly recruited doctors from rural areas are going to end up moving to the capital and start offering non-essential services in things like dermatology and plastic surgery, which isn't going to resolve the situation in any way and is only going to create more competition for them. But as we know, this debate, this protest movement has also been about doctors wanting better pay and shorter working hours as well. So that does muddy the argument somewhat. And, you know, it begs the question, is this really about doctors strong-arming the government to agree to their demands, or are they making a fair argument? Either way, the latest development with senior doctors now submitting their resignations shows that the medical industry has the backs of the junior doctors, and that is going to make the whole situation a lot more difficult for the government to handle, particularly as it goes on.
Now, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un visited a tank unit for inspection on Sunday. Kim Jong-un also called for stepping up its combat readiness, including greater ideological and mental power. During the visit, Kim was briefed by the division commander on its attack and defense operation plan. He reviewed documents and provided the direction of operational combat missions and training for the troops. Further west in Asia, Bhutan's king Jigme Khesar Namgyal Wangchuk arrived in Dhaka today to attend celebrations for Bangladesh's 54th Independence Day, which falls on March 26th. The king was greeted by Bangladesh President Mohammad Shahabuddin on his arrival and attended a ceremonial welcome. Accompanied by Queen Jetsun Pema, cabinet members and high-ranked government officials, the Bhutan king is visiting the South Asian neighbor after more than a decade, also to strike several business deals with Dhaka. Now, India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar met Prime Minister of Singapore, Lee Hsien Loong, during his visit to the country on Monday. Dr. S. Jaishankar conveyed the personal greetings of Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi. In a social media post on X, the External Affairs Minister of India said that he valued his perspectives on the current state of the world. Dr. S. Jaishankar also met other Singaporean leaders, including Finance Minister Lawrence Wong, Foreign Minister Vivian Balakrishnan, Home Minister K. Shanmugam, during his 3-day visit to Singapore. Dr. S. Jaishankar will embark on a visit to the Philippines and Malaysia. Now, millions of Indians are celebrating Holi, the festival of colours, at home and abroad. The festival celebrates the beginning of spring and the victory of good over evil. The festival, characterized by its vibrant colours and hues of gulal and customs transcending mere festivity. Holi is a jubilant celebration of happiness. It is celebrated with diverse customs all over India. In Barsana, Lathamar Holi involves women playfully hitting men with sticks, while Pulowali Holi in Vrindavan sees devotees being showered with flowers. Such a delight to celebrate the festival here in India. Well, the Indian diaspora in Scotland celebrated the Festival of Colours with great enthusiasm and energy, organised by the Scottish Indian Arts Forum. Over 400 people participated in this extravaganza. Guests included the Lord Provost of Edinburgh, Consul CGI Edinburgh, MSPs and other guests. And we now take a look at what else is happening across the world. The European Union's key nature restoration policy is in jeopardy as Hungary's withdrawal halted a crucial vote. This setback highlights ongoing challenges in implementing strict environmental regulations within the EU. Cherry trees began blossoming in Munich's Olympic Park, much to the delight of visitors who made use of the start of spring to take pictures of the blooming trees. The Japanese cherry blossoms in the Olympic Park have become a highlight for social media users in Munich. UK's Kennedy Centre honoured comedian Kevin Hart with the Mark Twain Prize for American Humour on Sunday, with an evening that featured routines from fellow comics in tribute to Hart's career. 44-year-old Kevin Hart became the 25th recipient of the prize. K-pop ensemble NCT Dream, a subgroup of the boy band NCT, released their latest album Dreamscape ahead of their world tour in May. Beginning with the Asian segment, the band will embark on their third world tour, extending their performances to South and North America as well as Europe, starting from August onwards. And Paris revived its historic cafe waiters race after a 13-year hiatus on Sunday. The event gathered around 200 waiters from various cafes across the city who were tasked with carrying a tray with a croissant, a cup of coffee and a glass of water on it along a 1.2-mile route. First held in 1914, the race had not taken place since 2011. So that's all for this edition of DD India Global. Do join us for another edition of the show live from Washington at 7:30 p.m. IST. You can connect with us on Facebook, X and Instagram at DD India Live. You can also find us online at ddindia.co.in. We will be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. For now, happy Holi to everyone. I'm Tanvi Taneja. From our entire team in New Delhi, thank you for watching. Namaskar.